I want to welcome you back to part 3 of making this Wakizashi. It was so much fun to get that forged. So now that the forging is done and all the grinding is done, it's time to hand sand it and get all of the fittings like the Damascus habaki and the Mokume gane guard all fit up. I will also be getting the handle done. I have some really amazing curly maple to do for the handle and for the saya, or scabbard. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into it, and we are going to get started. But real quick, I just wanted to mention I do have a Kickstarter going for my Precipice folding knife, also offering my aversion to bone pickers through that as well. So you can find the link to my Kickstarter and my social media down below, so you can keep an eye on every single project that I make. So let's go ahead and let's make some dust. Alright, so now I'm just going to test etch it so we can get a look at that pattern. And so this is a very darkened. You can definitely see the pattern. I'm quite happy with that. Now in order to bring out the pattern, I need to heat treat this and then clean it up again, do another etch, and then clean it up with some 2000 grit, and then after I clean off all the oxides, then I'll soak it in some instant coffee to darken all of the non-nickel steels in here, because there's actually 3 steels in here. There's some 5920, there's some 52100, and there's some 1080. So there will be a lot of contrast once I'm done with the whole treatment of this, but I'm very pleased with that. And it's now time to heat treat the habaki. Alright, so the habaki has been quenched. It's still too hot to handle. I'm going to let it cool down for a bit, and then I will temper it 2 times at probably 500 degrees just to make sure it's really nice and tough. In the meantime, I'm going to cut a piece off of this Mokume for the guard. Alright, so I have the guard all rough cut out here. It will now be time to drill through that and file out space for the tang, get that all fit up. The habaki is out of the temper. You can kind of see some of the pattern in there. So now I'm going to clean this up on the grinder, start the etching process. I have the blade ready for finished grinding. I marked a couple of spots that need just a little extra grinding to make sure that that edge is perfectly straight. So I'm going to go ahead and jump on the grinder, get this ground first, and then I will work on the hardware. Alright, so I have the habaki here, all cleaned up to 400 grit. And so now I am going to clean it up with some acetone, make sure there's no oil or grease from my hands on there. And then I am going to start the etching process. It'll be a long etch. It etches away the high carbon steel faster than it etches away the nickel steel, so we get the different topography on the steel itself. So I'm going to go ahead and get this cleaned up and we'll get that started. So I just pulled it out of the acid. You can see that pattern there. I neutralized it, and now I'm going to dry it off, and then I'm going to go scrub this with some 2000 grit. There we go. The habaki has been etched. And that actually turned out so well that I am not even going to do a coffee etch. That just looks gorgeous. So, now I'm going to fit up the guard, and then it'll be time to finish. So I have the blade here. It is now time to start the hand sanding. Okay, so I dropped it in the acid about 10 minutes ago, and that looks like a really good etch. So I'm going to neutralize it, give you guys a good peek at that hamon. Alright, so now that we are out of the etch, it is time to polish. I have some Flitz polish here. And there we go. Alright, so now that I have the blade polished, I'm going to fit up the handle here. This is some curly maple. So I'm just going to trace the tang so that I can mill out a nice slot for the tang between these two pieces. And it will get ground down quite a bit. All right. Alright, we are all fit up. So now I'm going to use the handle tang just to kind of glue the handles together. And then I'll pull it off and let it cure. But we are just about ready to get the final fit up on the guard and the handle. So I'm going to get this glued. Alright, so now I'm going to glue in these spacers, and this will be the these will be the scabbard. But I'm going to glue these together first, and then it will be time to start getting the scabbard glued together. And then when I actually put the scabbard together, I'm going to make a piece that goes all the way around. This wood glue is actually stronger than wood, so these areas won't be a weak point, especially after I put the middle piece in. Alright, so I have the scabbard here. I have glued on this piece just to keep everything all really nice and strong. And now I have to, using some chisels, chisel out an area for the habaki. I'm going to chisel a groove here for the flat of the wakizashi so that the blade fits in nicely without being too tight. So I'm going to go ahead and clamp this down and start chiseling. Alright, this is going to be the top of the saya, the scabbard, and I have to file an exact slot for the habaki. Alright, so our piece here is fit up to the habaki. So now I'm going to glue together the scabbard, or the saya is the proper term for it. Glue that together, and then I will glue this onto the end once the scabbard is totally done curing. Alright, so I have the handle here. I have glued on just a little wangwood spacer. So I'm going to shape the handle now, and it'll be time to glue up the handle here soon. After I get the handle shaped, I'll get it finished, and then I'm going to get the guard finished. I have the habaki all hand sanded here. Now I'm going to dip it in the acid to give it a nice kind of antique look. Also brings out contrast in the layers. And there we go. Alright, that is looking really cool. That handle on there. So now I'm just going to finish hand sanding this, and then it will be time to put a pin in it and get the handle all ready to be glued. Alright, so I'm just going to put this 1/4 inch pin in place. This is all held totally securely, nothing wiggles. So, I'm going to go ahead and get the last pieces of the scabbard all glued up now. So I'm going to grind the end of the scabbard here just a little bit so I can fit the last piece on, and then It'll be time to glue that and get this all finished. So now I'm going to glue on the last part of the scabbard. So now just the pressure of it being in the scabbard will let it glue and let it sit for about an hour before I take it off, and then I will finish the scabbard all the way. Alright, so I have finished shaping that spacer, and this looks really cool. Now I'm going to hand sand this up to about 200, maybe 220 grit, and then I'm going to give it a little stain and see how it looks, and I might sand it up to 400, give it a little more stain and see how it looks. So I'm going to start hand sanding and get all the machine scratches out. Look at that. That has some incredible figure. I mean, just look at that. I am so incredibly pleased with how this turned out. I mean, just like, look at all of that. The curly maple looks fantastic. The Mokume gane guard looks awesome. And I really love the shape that I did. It has a very faceted, more traditional shape rather than the shape that I usually do, so I really, really like that. I love the habaki. That Damascus looks absolutely fantastic. And the hamon is awesome. And this is actually one of the first pieces I've done where the spine is ground as well. Usually I do it leave it fairly square, round the edges off, but on this one, I'm just grinding the whole spine essentially into one big swedge. Really looks awesome. The saya looks absolutely fantastic as well, and the little bit of wangwood accents kind of pull the whole thing together, so I'm very, very pleased with how this turned out. Now this piece is available. It will be posted on my social media. You can find the links for that below. And if you enjoyed watching me build this Wakizashi, please like and subscribe. It really helps me to continue to build all of these awesome projects out here in the shop. I am very excited to get started on the next project. I have some very nice hunting knives and Bowie knives to get started. So I'm really excited to show you guys all of that. Some really cool materials are going into those builds. So I want to thank you one last time. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And if you haven't, please check out my Kickstarter. I have a Kickstarter going for my Precipice folding knife, and I'm also doing version 2 bone pickers exclusively through my Kickstarter. So go ahead and check that out. The link is down below as well. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you on the next episode of Let's Make a Knife.